So just so you know, the session will be recorded. So if you missed any parts, you'll be able to go back to it. And we please ask that you send all your questions in the chat, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end of the session if any of your questions were left unanswered. But please don't hesitate to send your questions, because I'm sure a lot of people will have asked themselves the same question. So it's always really helpful to get your insights. So thank you again for taking the time to be here this morning for today's IDS internship info session. So the agenda for today's session, we'll go through our resources at the Arts Internship Office on how to find an international internship, as well as the available funding opportunities and financial resources. And we'll have a section with the IDS advisor, Lisa, who will explain how to apply for the academic credit course INTD 499. And then I will share some resources on how to prepare for potential international travel. And today we have two wonderful past interns who will share their experiences, Fabia and Sarah. So towards the end of the session, and we'll share some resources on how to stay in touch with us, what are the next steps in your internship search. And as I mentioned, feel free to send your questions in the chat, and we'll take some time for Q&A at the end of the session. So without further ado, let's get started with how to find an internship. So obviously that's the first step in the internship search journey. So for those of you who are less familiar with our office, at the Arts Internship Office, we offer different kinds of resources. So the most obvious one being internship opportunities, but we also offer funding opportunities to support your internship experiences, as well as training to prepare applications, but also during your internships and afterwards as well. And we've also created a mentorship program, and the past interns like the ones today who really give back and are ambassadors for the AIO to really encourage students to apply for further years. So this is a timeline I like to share because there's often a lot of anxiety around when to start getting ready for applications. So now is really the right time to do so and to look at internships for the upcoming summer. So a lot of our deadlines and resources that I'm going to name are happening again really around the January-March timeline in terms of applications, since the internships are all for the summer, which is between May to August. So again, time goes fast, especially as a student. April, you will be focused on finals. So that's why it's important to really start looking into internships at this time of the year. And I'll be mentioning a lot of the resources listed here in terms of how to prepare applications. And as I was mentioning, we offer guidance and workshops and resources, not only during your internship, but also after your internship. So I will touch on all these elements today. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. All right. So I always like also to take a moment to kind of explain what is an internship and what what is different to a part-time job. So what makes an internship what it is really the experiential learning opportunity. It has to include learning objective, training, supervision, and mentorship. So you have to go into this experience with a learner's mindset, not expecting, you're not expected to know everything about the position already. This is really a learning opportunity. And the internships are not a mandatory part of your studies. If ever it's not the right timing for you, etc. There's a lot of pressure to do internships as soon as possible. However, again, they can be adapted to your own internship and study journey as well. If you need to take some time to focus on your studying, for example. However, you also want to make the most out of the resources that are available, especially for our office, where you have to be returning in the next year. So again, you have a few summers to make the most out of those opportunities, but it's important for you to really define timing as well. There are also two aspects that we want to warn students about, which are volunteerism and fee-based organization. So volunteerism, especially when it comes to the IDS department, I think we used to see it a lot more before the pandemic. But those are opportunities that really mix volunteer and tourism, and that often makes a lot of profit, charging students deep charges, and perpetuates negative outcomes and dynamics within the communities they claim to support. And unfortunately, that really falls outside of the efforts we make to ensure a good learning experience for students. So again, the learning mindset and the impact that you have during your internship is important as well. So anything that might sound like volunteerism, please do flag it to our office. And that often can go hand in hand with fee-based organizations. So once again, it's really organizations that are for profit, trying to make a profit out of students looking for internship experiences. And so our office cannot support any of these organizations. And the red flags to really recognize those organizations would be an upfront cost. So they ask you to spend like $1,000 and then they guarantee you a placement. So they'll say, if you give us your money, we'll guarantee you an internship for next summer. And so that is really organizations you should stay away from. We've seen a lot of very not ethical, very unsafe situations for students. And so those opportunities will not be eligible for academic credit or any recognition from the university. So once again, if you're unsure, just come and meet with our office and we will let you know. So there's three types of organizations, two types of internships that you can do with our office. The first one being the posting. So those are partnerships that we have with host organizations. However, so I will present you those in a moment. You can also find your own internship. So we have resources on our website, but really when it comes to finding your own internship, it can be anywhere in the world, any sector that you're interested in. And we also have a research internship program called ARIA that I will mention as well. So firstly, the internship posting. So those are really great opportunities for students in the faculty because those are partnerships that we've built with host organizations. And there's a reserved spot for a Faculty of Arts student in each of these organizations. And so I will go through a bit of the application process. We've had a separate info session just on that. So if ever you're interested, I invite you to look through that info session as well. As I was mentioning, the main eligibility criteria for all of our resources, you have to be currently enrolled in the Faculty of Arts. Again, that includes all the list of programs listed here. So from arts and science, social work, theology, and also the 3 master's program in arts. A very important factor, however, is that you have to be returning to McGill in the same program in the fall semester following the internship. So in this case, it would be fall 2025. There is a minimum GPA requirement of 2.7. However, there is some flexibility if there's been any major life events that impacted your GPA, maybe in your first or second semester. But again, the fact that there's this GPA requirement is really to see if there's anything, as I was mentioning, academically that should be focused on rather than doing an internship. Maybe this is just not the right time for you to do this experience and rather take a summer course, etc. So it's more of a case by case situation where it's a conversation to have with our office. So for each of the postings, they all have specific requirements, but again, especially if you are looking into travel, just to read through all the postings, all the categories, and make sure, for example, what is the intern's responsibilities would be anything related to visa and entry requirements our office is unable to help with, as it is really different from the student's nationality, etc. So we always invite you to go to the consulate of the country of your destination, and they will be able to help you the most. And same when it comes to accommodations, etc. We can put you in touch with past interns. However, it is really the intern's responsibility to figure out those details. So if you are interested in applying for an AO posting, I will show you on our website where you can find all this information. But first, we invite you to read through all the different categories. So we organize our postings by categories. And as a past IDS student myself, I know it can be very interdisciplinary and a lot of interest in different fields. So it can also be an occasion to kind of explore outside of the field. So make sure to read through all the different categories that we have. And then for each of the posting, we'll have a PDF, as I was mentioning, with different requirements. And you can also read, there's a link to past interns stories, and we can also put you in touch with past interns if you would like to know more. For these postings, you do have to select a maximum of 3 postings. In this application process, we really prioritize quality over quantity. So again, it's not just copy pasting for all 60 positions. It's really more of taking the time. You don't have to apply to 3 either. It's really 3 maximum. So 1 to 3, whichever ones talk to you the most, and really taking the time to talk to us, talk to past interns, and to really target your CV and cover letter when you're applying. We also take into consideration your ranking when you are applying. So make sure to think about that as well, as we'll consider you first for your first choice. So as I've also already been mentioning, I'll share the office hours at the end, but you want to make sure that you talk to one of our advisors before applying, and that all of the questions should be addressed to our office and not the host organization, as this is a point of our partnership for us to help them with the application process. And we cannot review the CV cover letters, but we can link you to our colleagues at the CAP Career Planning Services, who will be able to do that with you. And then to prepare the material for your application, so it's all listed on the website as I was mentioning, and I will be sharing the different resources as well in terms of CV cover letter review and preparing for potential international travel. And obviously the most important step is to not forget to fill the form before the deadline, which is February 9th. So again, what to prepare, I won't get into too much detail. This is all in the other info session, but your personal information, your transcript, you confirm that you meet eligibility criteria. And the really most important one is the targeted CV and cover letter. So once again, make sure you don't just copy paste, you really target it, and that you merge the CV and cover letter for each application in one PDF. And I will show you the details for the pre-departure orientation if you're applying for anything outside of campus. Sorry, that's from home dog. You also have to familiarize yourself with our entrance handbook and give consent for our office to share the application materials with the host organization. So you'll see on the different postings, just before I show you the website, the internship location. So some of the postings will ask you to decide if you want to apply for a remote posting or in person or hybrid. So again, some of them might include travel. So you want to make sure that you specify that in your cover letter. So, all right, I will share the website. All right, so quickly also the handbook. So we're in process of updating the handbook for 2025. But you can see the one from 2024 on the website to start and familiarize yourself with the kinds of requirements that are asked from students. As I was mentioning, on the handbook, you will be able to see the kinds of trainings that are required before, during, and after the internship. So I will now show you the website. Can you see the websites? Joel, can you confirm if the website is on the screen?
The website is on the screen, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so some of you might already be familiar with our website, but that's really where you can find all of the information. It might be a little overwhelming at times, but really make sure to update it with all kinds of questions we get. So the recordings of the past info sessions can be found on the website as well. So for internship postings, again, the info session I've been referring to in terms of details on how to apply is on the website here. And you can follow all of the instructions on how to apply, the resources I was mentioning to have your application reviewed. The application form itself is here. It's a Microsoft web form. The only thing is that you cannot go through all the pages until you start actually filling it. So that's why we have everything really detailed on the website. So the what to prepare section is detailed with everything you will need for your application. So you can see it all here. And then the different categories I was mentioning are here. So advocacy, policy, governance, arts and culture, climate change. So as I was mentioning in IDF, there's a lot of these different categories that could be relevant to you. Obviously, the human rights development education can be a main one. So one of our postings, for example, would be the Center for Democratic Development in Accra. This is the PDF I was mentioning. These are the links to the stories. So the PDF is really the most important part of this application. And this is one of the posting, as I was mentioning, where we ask that you indicate in your cover letter whether you're applying for remote or in person. So if you're applying in person, again, it will be case by case to see if the student is ready for travel. Otherwise, you can still apply for remote. We get the question a lot of, does it impact my chances of getting the internship, whether I'm applying for remote or in person? And the answer is no. It's really just for you to really explain in your cover letter why you prefer one or the other. And you really want to make sure to read through the requirements for each of the postings, as they are different. The hours as well, some of our postings are part-time, others are full-time, etc. And then for remuneration, I'll get into the details, but each of the posting has a different set award. So if you get the posting, you will automatically get this amount. You can also, if you meet the need-based criteria, you can also look into the Enriched Educational Opportunities Bursary. So that's an additional funding that you could get through the Scholarship and Student Aid Office. So I will also talk about that in my slides, but just so you know, on each of the posting, it is indicated. So in terms of organizations, we have a number of artistic organizations in Montreal, like Festival XCSD. We work with Climate Reality Project in Montreal, which is a remote position. We have some more diplomatic US consulates, permanent representation of Peru to the ICAO, historical associations, and then in human rights and development, some organizations in Toronto, Montreal, EduConnexion, IHTAS. We have a new partnership with FHI 360, which is a fully remote position, as well as Synagogue in New York, as well as a number of also partnerships with the UNHCR, which I'm sure in the IDS department also would be very interesting. So again, I really invite you to read through all of the postings and seeing which ones you would want to apply for. As I mentioned, again, you have to pick up to 1 to 3 postings, and make sure that your ranking also follows your order of preference. So here are all the internship postings resources. While I'm here, I'll just show you the different resources that you can find. So to find your own internship, tomorrow we'll have a different info session as well that goes more in depth. But you can always go back to this page to find all of the resources. So if you really have to kind of figure out your interest, there's an interesting list of questions here that can help you in your internship search if you're looking for your own, as well as some reminders on how to go forward with the application search, the internship search. So as I've been referring to in terms of cover and CV guides and advising sessions, so we work with the career planning services. Again, the AIO cannot do the review, but you can first use the guides. We have them printed at the office as well if you prefer that. But if you're really just getting started, those are really, really great guides that also give you kind of a template that you could follow. We always recommend keeping it very simple and just some really good advice on how to get started. And once you have a draft ready for your CV or your cover letter, I really, really encourage you to go to the drop-in hours at the career planning services, where some advisors will be able to read it with you, go through it, and really give you some feedback on your personal application. So again, they have a lot of resources even beyond these 2 resources. So we really work in partnership with them. They are also the ones who host the My Future database. So unfortunately, as a staff, I do not have access, so I cannot show you what it looks like. However, they host, again, partnerships with not only the Faculty of Arts, but for every student on campus. So I also invite you to go on the My Future database and ask the CAPS advisors about it. We also have an internship database from our office where we try to link all of so you just have to log in with your McGill credentials. And you can go by area of interest, location, and level. And it's really more of a list of organizations where students have interned in the past in the Faculty of Arts. You could also look through our past award recipients, but this is a more direct way to look through. So these are really across the field. These are not places that we have a partnership with, but those are the types of organizations that students have found internships with in the past. So it could be you have to reach out on your own, but you could mention that a student from the faculty has done the internship in the past. If you do find your own internship, then you could apply for funding through our office. So as I mentioned, if you get a posting, you don't need to apply for it separately. However, if you find your own internship and it includes travel or it's unpaid, you could apply for the awards through our office, and those are due March 16th. So again, I won't go into too much detail in this session. We'll have a separate info session if you're interested. That will also be uploaded on the website. As I briefly mentioned as well, we have some research internships where you get to work with a McGill professor on campus for the summer. Those applications are due on February 23rd. And so, for example, you could approach a professor in your department. There's also a separate info session for this program. This is more targeted in terms of eligibility for 2nd or 3rd year students, and the GPA requirement is more strict since it is an academic research internship. and it is only for undergraduate students. So again, if that is something that interests you, either for this summer or the next, I invite you to look through it. All the travel resources are also listed on here that I will get into in my slides. This is our mentorship program. So a lot of the pairing and events have already happened for this year, but if you're interested in looking into it for the upcoming year, don't forget that we do have a mentorship program. So for the credits and co-curricular record resources we're going to mention, just so you know, it is also on our website under for students. And as well for the events like today's info session and all of the upcoming workshops and info sessions I'll be mentioning, you can always go on our website to find the registration links. And as well as the past events and workshops to find all the slides of the last, for example, the workshops. If you can't make it to any of the CVO co-letter ones, you can go on the website to find the slides. And then finally, there is the story section. So all of the links to past interns experiences, as well as all of the students who found their own. So that could be a great way to learn about their experiences. If ever you want to be put in touch with any of them, just send us an email and we can put you in touch with the past intern. And finally, again, I'll give you all the contact information at the end of the session, but you can always find them. So we have drop-in hours at the office. We're located in Leacock in the room 307. And you can always send us an email as well at AIO. And all of the recordings are on our YouTube channel that is linked here as well. All right, so that's it for the website. Let me do a little drinking break. All right, so funding opportunities. Again, I'm going quickly because there's a lot of information to go through, but again, feel free to send any questions in the chat if you have any. So as I mentioned, the Arts Undergraduate Research Internship Awards, those are the research internship. They are open to undergraduate students who have a minimum of 3.0 GPA and have completed 60 credits. And same as the other awards, you have to be returning to McGill in the fall. And the deadline to apply is February 23rd, 2025. For the internship award, so again, this is only for students who find their own internship and want to apply for funding afterwards. This is open to both undergraduate and graduate students who have already a confirmed internship offer. The internship has to take place during the May to August period. Sorry, I forgot to update the 2025 here, but 8 to 12 weeks between May and August this summer. As I've mentioned, so another slide. So if you are selected for a posting, you do not need to apply for the internship awards. Each of the amounts are listed on each PDF. They do vary per organization, per posting. And the awards are disbursed in 2 payments, one in June, one in July, and they are designed to provide partial funding to offset internship-related costs. As I mentioned as well, if you can apply for the Enriched Educational Opportunities Bursary through the Scholarship and Student Aid Office. So again, the EEO title is kind of a recognition from the university. And in order to have your internship recognized as an EEO and be able to apply for the bursary, you will need to have it recognized on your co-curricular record or your academic credit, on your transcript by getting academic credit. So very quickly, the co-curricular record, that is only if you cannot have it on your academic transcript. That is open to everyone. I also invite you to look into it because that's a way to have recognition for everything you do outside of the classroom. And that's an official record that can be sent to future employers or educational institutions in the future to have everything you've done after the classroom recognized. So again, your internship could be recognized on this official document. And if you have it recognized on this record, then you could apply for the Scholarship and Student Aid Office bursary. And now I will take a little break from talking and give the mic to Lisa to talk to you about academic credit. So just a few general words. So academic credit, I'm sure Lisa will explain in detail, but it's something you apply for before you begin your internship. And then the course is taken in the fall following your internship. So it's not taken during the internship. It is your academic decision. Again, it's not a requirement because there's no co-op program in the Faculty of Arts, so it's always up to the students. Also to note that, again, not all departments offer the course, but you have the option in IDS to do this course. And each department has eligibility requirements. So I will let Lisa explain to you what are the requirements for the IDS departments.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Lisa. If you don't know me, I'm the IDS advisor. So as Jade mentioned, INTD 499 is the way for you guys to get 3 credits worth. But there's a lot of caveats, right? So the first thing is you have to have attained an internship experience through the AIO office, okay? Also, if you would like to get credit for it in your IDS program, it has to be relevant to developing areas, okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be in a developing area. You don't have to travel for this. But the project or your, not even necessarily your task, because intern tasks can very much vary, but definitely the project and the organization that you're interning it needs to be relevant to international development studies. That is actually quite broad. So we are flexible with that, okay? If you don't get the internship through the AIO and you get it independently, you still need to get AIO to sign off on this internship experience. You have to understand we will only issue credit for those that are approved by AIO as well, because AIO is the office that determines whether the internship is safe and legitimate. Jay did mention some, voluntourism type of scams that we don't want you guys to fall into. And we in ISID are not the experts on this. So this is why AIO is the needs to sign off on this. The big issue, well, not issue, the big, I guess, minimum, I would say, to get credit would be the GPA. So IDS students do need to have a 3.30 CGPA in order to apply for credit for your internship experience, okay? Another big caveat is you do need to find a supervisor to work with you. A lot of students think, oh, I did an internship, I just get credit for the internship. No, because you do need to produce an academic paper in order for us to justify giving you academic credit for your internship experience. And on another slide, I'll explain what it entails, but basically you need to find a professor to work with you or endorse your project. They're the ones who are going to be grading your final paper, which is the only submission you're going to do. I'll explain a bit more about that in another slide. But the professor that you do approach and do get to work with you must be a tenure track prof, meaning a full-time prof at McGill. And as you know, in IDS, we don't really have a ton of profs, right, who work in our department. But you can approach any prof in any department. They don't have to be IDS affiliated, okay? You unfortunately cannot work with some of the great profs that do exist, that do work here, but they're considered sessional professors. They don't have full-time contracts at McGill. Jade, could you switch me over? Okay, so the timeline is very important for 499, okay? So what happens usually, and what I tell my students is that you apply for internship through AIO, hopefully, or independently, you get accepted. The minute you get accepted, then you have to start considering, do I want to get credit for this project or not, okay? If you do, you have to fill in the 2 application forms, which are found on our website on ISID, and you have to submit to us, the ISID office, those 2 application forms before the internship starts, okay? And this is because we want to make sure you found your professor, and we want you to plan in advance, okay? Also, sometimes students think that the INTD 499 credit experience is granted at the same time as the student is doing internship. So that's not possible because you guys are going to be working over the summer or in your 9-10 week internship experience. So we're not expecting you to write your research paper while you're on internship. So you're going to be registered for the 3 credit project class the term following the internship experience. And Unfortunately, there's no exceptions to that rule. So some students think, oh, because they may be 3 credits behind and they want to do a summer class and they attained a really great internship and they have the GPA and they found the prof. Why can't I do it concurrently? Unfortunately, you cannot. This is a strict policy in our department. You have to pursue the project the term following the internship experience, which is normally in the fall term. So there are no lecture hours or class hours associated with this project. You're working independently on this research paper in collaboration with your chosen and secured supervising professor. So that's a good thing, because if you add one class in your fall schedule, right? You're taking, let's say, 5 classes, 4 of them have like in-class participation and, have to go to class, have to listen to lectures. This one is no in-class hours, you're working independently, and you create your own timeline, and you have basically 12 to 13 weeks to finish this paper, normally like a normal terms class. Jade, the next slide. Okay, so I think I already touched on this. The application needs to be submitted kind of in between that period of where you've been accepted on internship, you're going, you kind of figured out all these other details that Jade mentioned, visas, how you're going to be funded, etc. You have to find a professor to work with. And you do need to submit these 2 forms. One form is an ISID form. This ISID form, it's asking you for your project details. We understand you don't necessarily know what you're going to research yet. But we're trying to get you to start thinking about an academic component to this internship experience. Now, we don't have a set deadline for the application because it's really contingent upon the student's internship experience and when it's starting. So some students' internships start on May 5th. Some only start on June 10th, right? The student has until like the day before they leave really to apply for credit, okay? Unfortunately, we cannot accept applications while you're on internship or after the internship has been completed. Next slide, Jade. So what are the expectations? What did you guys sign up for, right, in the 499 project? So again, it's worth 3 credits, but you're only graded on 1 component. And that component is your final paper, okay? It's a research paper. You'll have the regular term weeks to work on this research paper, and your supervisor who has agreed to supervise you will be the one grading. The department, myself or my chair or anybody here will not be involved in that process unless there's an issue. There is a midterm tracking report, which I forgot to put up here. We do ask our students at week 4 or 5 to submit in collaboration with their professor, their supervisor, to make sure everything is on track, right? Because it's a very independent project. So you'll notice it's about 20 double-spaced pages, which is actually not that much, right? Including bibliography. And that's because we take into consideration the fact that you did this whole 10-week or 12-week internship experience, right? So that is weighed in this way to the 3 credits. And again, like I said, the supervisor who you've chosen to work with and who's endorsed you will grade your paper, and this grade will show up on your record as on your Minerva transcript as your grade for the 3 credit project class. So next slide, Jade. Okay, so my students, sometimes you guys find it the hardest part is how do I approach a prof to be my internship supervisor, okay? You should not be shy and you should not be afraid of rejection, okay? This is life. You won't always get, things happen, but you definitely need to continue at it, okay? So definitely do prepare and research potential topics on what you could possibly research based on your, let's say, internship experience in Ecuador, for example, okay? Then perhaps I really do suggest do preliminary research on supporting resources to support your argument, or let's say your research summary. And then you want to approach a prof whose background is similar and within the same area of interest and what your project is going to be on. Okay. Research in depth the prof as well. Usually they have information on their personal websites, on their departmental websites. They may have maybe indicative if they're on a sabbatical that year or not. And consider approaching a prof who you have already taken a class with. Be mindful also how you approach a prof. They're not obligated to say yes to this sort of supervision. They don't really get anything extra out of this. But they themselves, I always tell students, they themselves were undergrads at some point and they had to do some sort of independent research work as well. And this model really hasn't changed. Consider either emailing them or maybe finding their office hours online and approaching them in person. But be proactive and independent, okay? Definitely do not approach your professor super last minute. Like your deadline is like May 1st and you're approaching that last week in April. Don't expect the professor to give you a topic. You have to provide the topic to them and be open to editing the topic. That finalizing of the topic can come very much after the internship experience is over. But you should never expect the prof to give you the topic. This is an independent project. It's on you. And definitely don't email just a ton of profs with generic emails. It's very unprofessional and they most likely will not respond to you. Be mindful of the school calendar, the university's calendar, because you'll notice profs may not necessarily answer in June your emails. They're often, term ends in April and they're often off on their research projects in the summer. So I always suggest really that critical point between you find out you got internship and before term it lets out, before finals let out, before summer classes start, you got to figure out if you're going to come back in the fall and do an internship project or not. Okay, I think we're on our last slide now, Jade. So a summary again, you get credit for an internship, but it's not just the internship. You actually have to write a research paper, okay? And there has to be an academic component to this process. It's about 20 double-spaced pages. The internship credit is done the term following the internship experience. And again, the paper is based on the internship experience. It doesn't mean that, let's say you were doing an administrative role at the UN embassy or in Ecuador, and you had to, research your administrative role. That's not the point. The point is you're inspired by the internship experience in, let's say, the project that you're working on, whether it be here or in a different country, and then you're going to come back and you're going to create a research paper based on that inspiration. The application, again, like I said, is that critical time between you've been accepted on internship and then you haven't started yet, so you have to decide if you want to get credit for it or not. And your topic does not need to be final. That can be very much edited once you return from internship and you're launching into the internship term where you're going to be writing your paper. The big thing is you have to have a CGPA of 3.30. I've had students who have been very much on the cusp requesting for exceptions. Unfortunately, we cannot provide those exceptions. And you do need to approach and find your own supervisor. I can assist in terms of, you make an appointment with me, you say, Lisa, I have an idea in mind, and I can maybe assist and give you ideas on which profs are working in certain areas. And yeah, so the project class can only be completed after the internship experience and not during the internship. So to finalize my portion, and I hope I didn't take too much time, Jade, that there are two forms. Oftentimes students think the two forms need to go to AIO. I believe one of them does, but ultimately both of them do need to find their way in my inbox, either mine or our generic email, which is on the website. Because we issue the credit. Jade and her team does not issue the credit, okay? They do everything else but that. So everything is online. We have a form since 2000, I believe 2017 or 19. I haven't updated yet. We're still using that same form. And if there's any questions, you should know where to find me. Thank you.
So much. So I will just quickly show on our website. Again, thank you so much, Lisa. As I was mentioning, it really varies by department, so it's very important that you listen to Lisa's instructions. And you can go back to our general instructions. So again, if you go on our website under for students and academic credits, but here, as you can see, each department has their instructions, and you can find a link to the IDS department, INTD 499, and this is where you can find the two forms. Again, better to find us two forms than none at all, but you want to make sure that the second forming and the IDS forms gets to your department. In terms of our instructions, also, yes, to add up, again, thank you for all the clarifications, and hopefully that answers questions for students. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat. But it's really, as I mentioned, there's no co-op program in the Faculty of Arts, so you cannot get credit just for doing the internship. It's really an academic course that you take, as Lisa explained, with a professor, writing research, and you really link it back to your academics. So it's not for everyone, it's not mandatory. There are some requirements, and it's something you need to want to be doing. And yes, the role of our office, so we really vet the internship, especially if it's one that we don't have a partnership with yet. So it's a bit of a back and forth between our office and the department, but it's really important, again, to let yourself the time to go through all these steps. So as Lisa mentioned, before you start the internship, again, give yourself a couple of weeks to go through these steps. Especially, in April, both of our offices will be very busy as well. So you always want to give yourself at least 2 to 3 weeks for any of these procedures. So first, it starts with you getting the internship confirmed. You already confirmed that your department has the internship course. I will mention the travel requirements, which need to be completed also before you apply. And then our application form, again, so it starts with us vetting the internship and the academic credit form for every department that you can find here. And then our office signs it, and then your professor signs it, you send it back to us, and then the department signs it. So again, feel free to read through all these steps, and feel free, again, to meet with one of our advisors, with myself, if you have any questions about the process. All right, so I will keep going. So a few slides on how to prepare for international internship. As Lisa mentioned, again, travel is not necessarily required for an IDS internship. However, we are trying to encourage students, to reconsider doing international experiences. And if you do have an international experience, to keep in mind on how to best prepare for it. So if you are going outside of Canada, you want to make sure to complete the pre-departure orientation on my courses, which I will give the link to. And to keep in mind, anything outside of Montreal, you will have to download the McGill Student Travel Registry app closer to your departure once you have your internship confirmed. And make sure to enter all of the details of your location so that McGill Abroad can keep track of where students are doing university sanctioned activities. So for the pre-departure orientation, if you haven't heard about it yet, it's orientation offered by McGill Abroad on my courses that you do 3 to 6 months prior to departure. So all of the information is on their website. Let me try to click on that link. And if you are applying for anything through our office that requires travel, then you will need to have completed it. So once you complete it, you will have access to a certificate of completion that you'll need to upload in any of the applications that require travel outside of Canada. What's important to note is that there's a cycle to register. So each month, the next one is from February 3rd to 10th. So you'll have those few days to register for the orientation. Then once you're registered, it will appear on my courses. And the deadline to complete it is until February 28th. So again, if you are applying for any of the February 9th postings and that are including travel outside of Canada, you'll want to make sure to register between the 3rd and the 9th, but ideally closer to the 3rd to give yourself a couple days to complete the orientation. And same thing for the March deadline of the March 16 deadline. Please make sure to complete it as soon as possible. So if you are considering travel, it's not binding. So if you end up not traveling, that's okay. But you really want to make sure that you have the certificates ready. So mark your calendars for February 3rd. If you have any questions about this process or about the travel registry, make sure to reach out to safetyabroad@mcgill.ca. Again, our office is unable to help with any of the registration for pre-departure. But Lisa Campbell at the Safety Abroad office will be able to help you. Are we doing on time? All right, I will wrap it up. So Government of Canada's travel advisory, so that's all on our website under travel section as well. You do want to make sure that you go on the Government of Canada's website on the link that is provided here and on our website, and that you review the different categories. Maybe I can show you quickly what it looks like. So enter your country of destination. I'll pick one randomly, Armenia, go. And then you can see the color code and the level code. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And if it is in orange or red, unfortunately, you cannot apply for anything for the university to recognize the opportunity, as the government has declared to avoid non-essential or all travel. So you want to make sure to review that. If the level changes while you're abroad as well, you'll have to be in touch with the McGill Abroad office. So make sure to review all of these requirements before applying and to consider when you're preparing for travel. All right, I will leave the mic to one of our students, Bhavya, to share their internship experience.
Thank you so much, Jade. Hi, everyone. My name is Bhavya, and I am a third-year student. I'm studying international development and gender studies, along with a minor in social entrepreneurship. Last summer, I got my internship with Pinay, Quebec, and I worked for them for around 2.5 months during the summer. I got this internship. I got to know about the organization after talking to one of my professors. I was taking a class with her, and I visited her office hours once to discuss a research project for the class. And throughout the conversation, like at the end of the conversation, I was just like, "Oh, do you possibly know some organizations that I can work with during the summer for as an intern or something?" And guess what? She was like, "Oh, actually, I know an organization. I can maybe get you in touch with them." So I sent them an email. They asked for my CV, my cover letter, everything like the regular procedure. And I got an interview with them. So I think the biggest tip that I give out to anyone who's looking for an internship, especially independently, is talking to your professors, because sometimes they're your biggest, they're going to help you a lot with a lot of these things, because they know what you're going through with finding internships, because it's really, really hard. Also, I would definitely tell everyone to reach out to local organizations in and around Montreal, because they are looking for people, university students, studying really niche subjects, and especially, a lot of not-for-profits and grassroots organizations. They're very interested in hiring interns from McGill. And I think this experience really changed the way I viewed my major as well. It gave me a lot of depth into how and where I'm going to take this degree to. Yeah, that's about it. That's exactly what I wanted to say. These are the few tips. This is my 2 cents. So Sarah, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oops, let me change that. All right, and our next speaker is our current staff and also past intern, Sarah, who found her internship in Pakistan.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here. So my name is Sarah Salim Daradia. I'm also an IDS major, and I'm doing a double minor in environment and Arabic. I found my own internships. So I did 2 internships in summer 2023 with the Gilgit-Baltistan Environmental Protection Agency, GBEPA, and IBEX Media Network in summer 2024, also in Pakistan. The way I heard about these internships is that in 2022, Pakistan had severe floods during the summer season. And I heard about the work of GBEPA during that time. That's how I got to learn about the organization. And then I had somebody in my network that helped me connect with the deputy director of the organization via email. He was happy to offer me an internship opportunity, and that's how I got my first internship. For my second internship, I actually worked on a documentary project with GBEPA the past summer, and I got in touch with IMN, which is IBEX Media Network, um, for to see if there's a potential chance of an internship in summer 2024, and they were happy to have me. So that's how I got my 2 internships. I think they were very, very helpful for me because when you're studying international development at McGill, it's all very academic, and you're watching documentaries, but you don't, and reading papers, but you don't really have practical experience into what development is like. For that, I personally think you have to go into the developing world. So that's what I did. That's what AIO allowed me to do with their funding program. I think for advice, I would suggest firstly to complete your pre-departure orientation and your travel registries timely. They're not difficult. You just have to do them in a timely manner. So, try to get those done. The second advice I'd give is that I personally found the Yes internship workshops very helpful. There's ones that help you prepare getting into your internship. There's ones that help support you while you're on your internship, and then there's ones that happen post the internship experience. I personally really liked them, and I thought I learned a lot. One of my key takeaways from them was building my network, working on my LinkedIn, for instance, and that's actually how I found my second internship. So I think those are great resources to take advantage of. All the best, and let us know if we can help you out in any way.
Sarah. All right, so I will share my last few slides and let you guys go. I know we're running out of time. Oops, that's tough. All right. So, so I'll quickly share just how to stay in touch and all the resources. So again, this info session was recorded and will be posted on the website and past info sessions and on the YouTube channel if you want to go back to it, and it will be shared with the department. Thank you also to our speakers. I know Lisa had to run out, so if you have any questions about credits, feel free to send her an email. You can find her on the IDS contact page. And then a few resources. So the checklist I was mentioning, again, you can find it. I really invite you to come to our office as well. I'll show you the drop-in hours. We have upcoming workshops in terms of CV and cover letter writing. So this is additional to the CAPS resources that you can go to any time of the week. But we do have some online workshops that are not recorded, but you can really bring your questions. And that's one of our external advisors. And we're also going to have some interview workshops on February 12th and 25th. So you can click on those links and register. They're also on the website. So as I showed on the website, you can find all the links to register, all the upcoming sessions, and the past events and workshop section is also on the left side menu. CV cover letter review. So once again, the career planning services are located in the Brown Student Services building, so across from us on McTavish. And you can have a 15-minute drop-in appointments every day, 1:30 to 2:30. There's no appointments, but it can be good to show up at 1:30 just to make sure that you have a slot. Upcoming key dates and deadlines. So the postings partnerships deadline is February 9th at 11:59. The ARIA deadline is February 23rd, and then the award deadline is March 16th. Always to note that our office does close on the weekend. So if you have any questions, it's good to give yourself a couple of days to submit your application in case you have any questions. And to keep in touch with our office, so there's multiple ways you can sign up. I really recommend signing up for the listserv and newsletter. We try not to send too many emails, but there are some opportunities that we can only transfer by email. So it's very important to be registered on it. And we'll send some monthly newsletter with all of the upcoming events and workshops. You can also follow us on social media at AIO McGill on Facebook and Instagram, and always send us an email at aio@mcgill.ca. And the drop-in hours, so again, you can come and talk to our staff for one-on-one advising sessions, and as well as register to events that are coming up. So for drop-in hours, we have Monday to Thursday. If ever you cannot make it to any of these time slots, feel free to send us an email and we can try to find a time to meet. Otherwise, again, our staff is usually there Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 around, but those are really the slots where it is guaranteed our door is open and we are ready to welcome you. So in terms of next steps, hopefully this was very informative and motivated you to look for an internship. So again, you can read through the postings and stories on our website, network with past interns. Feel free to send us an email if there's anyone specifically you want to be put in touch with. Come and talk to our AO advisors. So again, all of our staff are previous interns themselves. So that is one efficient way to talk to a past intern. Make sure to sign up for the TV cover letter workshops and go to CAPS to get it reviewed by a career advisor. Save the date for pre-departure orientation on February 3rd if you are thinking of going abroad. And obviously to submit any of the application forms before the deadline. So I don't think we had any questions in the chat, but we still have a few minutes to answer any questions. To kick us off, I have some commonly asked questions. I think one that we get very often is if it's possible to get an internship as a first-year intern. Before I forget, also from Babia's experience, saying it's obviously it can be difficult. It's not a given to find an internship, but it's also to show again all these success stories and how different that can look. I was going to say if you're applying for postings, definitely also try to find your own internship. Not putting all your eggs in one basket. However, if in your first year, even if you don't end up getting anything, it's also good to, be facing rejection. I think Lisa, I was mentioning when it comes to credit, unfortunately, it is a part of the internship process and I wish we could remove it altogether, but unfortunately in life, in the job prospects, etc., you need to be ready to face some rejections. And again, get feedback, continue, perseverance is also a great quality to have in this process. That being said, again, it is definitely possible to get an internship as a first year. You can see on so this is a link to our past awards recipients. And as you can see, so each year we do a list of all of our award recipients, and you can do a search by year, for example, and each year we have a representation of even U0 students, U1 students. Again, those are learning opportunities that are meant for students in their undergrad. And so they are definitely accessible. You're not necessarily required to have 3 years experience for all of these opportunities. So again, on our postings, it's very detailed. You can see the requirements. And so really go back to that when you're preparing applications, and same thing for any of the external opportunities, to really ask the right questions, but also sometimes, shooting your shot really goes a long way. It can also be an opportunity to explore something outside of your major. So again, IDS is already very multidisciplinary, so it can really be a great way to try. Do you like working in an office? Do you prefer working on the ground? Do you prefer a small or big organization? It's really a great way to explore these different work settings. And then the French requirements. So again, on our postings, it will say whether you need French or not. Obviously, going to a different city that's more Anglophone can be sometimes a good way to look at it, like Ottawa or Toronto are more international. However, even in Montreal, there are some opportunities where French is more or less required. So always just making sure, reading through the requirements and asking the question. So I think there is one question. Any tips for a student graduating this semester looking for an internship this summer? So also on our website, as I mentioned, unfortunately, all of our resources are for returning students. However, our friends at the career planning services. So if you go under internships and for graduating students, you can meet with a career advisor, again, find your own internship. Again, the thing is that after graduation, is it an internship? Is it a job? It's a very different approach to the career world and different opportunities. So you can go on the career. Again, the career planning services have a lot of resources. And another website that's very important is the experiential learning opportunities for graduating students. Oops, I'll move here. And so you can see here, there are, for example, this internship is only for students in their final year. There's the Pathy Foundation Fellowship. So there are a number of opportunities that have kind of also reserved spots for McGill students. So, but that would not be through our office, but it's very important to go talk to career planning services and explore the experiential learning websites because they have a lot of resources. So you want to make sure you don't miss out on those. But unfortunately, when it comes to AIO, it's only for returning students. Thank you for your question. All right, well, we are a little bit past time. So if there's no other questions, I will wrap it up here. But thank you so much, everyone, all of our presenters. I've said too many words in 1 hour. And again, this is all recorded. And if you have any questions, you can send us an email at ao@mcgill.ca. And hopefully we hope to see you in the office for drop-in hours and to read your applications. Again, feel free to come and ask any questions anytime. It can be daunting, but we really want it to not be. And again, being put in touch with current students who've done an internship in the past is really the best way to break the ice. So don't hesitate if you'd like to be in contact with anyone who's done an internship that sounds interesting to you. And again, our staff is here to help you as well through the process. Yeah, have a good week, everyone. And thank you again. I will stop the recording now, stop share. Thank you, everyone. Can't find the recording.